Hey, folks, welcome to Friendly Orbit, the podcast that draws us together no matter how far we fly. I'm Ceres, hailing you from the Alpha Quadrant, and I'm joined by.
Thea, boldly going where a lot of people just like me have gone before.
We're back with old sci-fi, and this one is uncontroversial. The Next Generation is old. We're talking about Star Trek: The Next Generation, a TV show made in 1989 by Gene Roddenberry and a bunch of other people. It's the one with Patrick Stewart in it. You almost certainly are vaguely aware of it, but perhaps you have seen it before. Today,
if anything, you've seen the memes. You know the memes with Captain Picard.
Exactly.
Today,
we boldly watch her botch Star Trek: The Next Generation and see if it holds up, and if in the current landscape of sci-fi TV shows, you should go back and watch this one.
Yeah. And I've missed recording.
It's been a little while.
It's been a while. Anyways, let's go.
Ignition sequence start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff.
And
Wow.
we're back.
And wow.
All right, Thea. I don't even know where to tackle the structure of this. Let me let the audience in first on our secret. So, we watched the first two episodes of The Next Generation called Encounter at Farpoint a few weeks ago. But we didn't have the time after watching those two episodes to record, and then it sat for a while, so we decided you are making lots of background noise.
Interesting. I think it's a squeaky chair again. I had forgotten.
Yes.
Squeaky chair. Okay. Give me a sec. Squeaky chair is gone. All right. Here we go.
So we after having to sit for about a week or two, we started we did this recording, and we watched another two episodes. We watched The Naked Now, and what was the last one we called? Code of Honor?
Code of Honor.
Code of Honor. So we have seen, this is an extra big watcher botch. We didn't just watch an hour and a half of content. We watched 3 hours of content, and are here now to bring you our opinions. So,
Yay.
How did you feel about it, Thea? First off,
that was such an interesting show to watch.
I agree.
Like Firefly is just like straight up good.
Yeah.
And knows what it is.
Yeah.
And I think Futurama was like not as good, especially in its first episodes, but there were no surprises.
Yeah.
And this show was so interesting because of what it was at the time, what it thought it was at the time, and what it has become now.
Yeah. I would say, broadly speaking, I was entertained watching the show, but unlike, for example, Firefly, I'm not sure I was entertained in the way the show thought I should be, if you know what I mean, right?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm having fun watching this show, but I don't think because of the reasons the show thinks, you know? There are things that are funny about the show that I don't think the show thinks are funny. You know, there are things that are interesting about the show that I don't think the show is doing intentionally. Yeah, I agree. This was a really fascinating watch. This was a really interesting reflection of, I guess, the late 80s, early 90s, you know, where the creators of Star Trek were at.
Also, this show is much more explicitly like political and is much more explicitly trying to have a moral and a commentary on society in a way that the others two don't.
Yeah.
and so it's much easier to point at it and go like, it aged.
Yeah,
And yeah,
yeah, that's true. So, do we want to recap briefly what the plots were of the first two episodes are a two-parter, so they're
sure.
they
Can
share a
you
point.
handle the first episode? I think you might remember it better than I.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure that's true because I forgot about the jellyfish monsters. But um Encounter at Far Point. So the next generation of Enterprise Starfleet members are the next crew are headed out to a point on a distant edge of the galaxy called literally Far Point, where a culture of very human looking but apparently not human aliens live in their space station. Starfleet, the Enterprise arrives and beams down a few of their members, who we're starting to get to know. We get to know Picard,
Wait,
who
wait,
is
wait,
a.
wait. But why are we here?
We're here because I think they get to join the Federation.
They have built like a space station,
Mm-hmm.
uh, up to like Federation standard,
Yeah.
and yeah, they want to kind of like become like a pivotal transit point for for Starfleet ships. At the
And I
same
think they have a
time,
lot of energy they want to share. I think that's what it was.
yeah, could be. And also, very, very notably, before all of this happens, the Enterprise gets attacked by a super smart being that puts them in a mindscape where they go back in time and are trialed
Oh yeah,
as
holy shit! I
representatives
forgot
of
about all of this.
humanity. And the guy looks like Christopher Columbus at first.
Yeah, so the guy. Okay, yeah, you're right. So as the Enterprise pulls up to the space station, a guy appears on board randomly. Just a guy. He just appears, and if he keeps going through different ages of history. First, he looks like Columbus. Then he looks like. Eventually, he looks like a World War II soldier. I'm sure they do a stage in between.
Yeah.
Um, they eventually have him look like a soldier who we don't know, right? Who's beyond our current day, who looks like a guy in a big puffy suit with a little nozzle on it that he huffs drugs out of, um, which apparently comes after a nuclear catastrophe. So this is sort of alternate, history lore that they're giving us. And then, yeah, eventually takes on this persona of a judge. And we go, some of the crew are taken to this sort of psychological courtroom where that reflects the 22nd century, I guess, or the late 21st century, before present day. And It's supposed to sort of showcase humanity at its deepest point. And this guy is so judgmental because he's like, oh, you are barbarians of a savage race that never learned civility or humanity, right? I assume he doesn't use the word humanity, but you know what I mean. And I'm going to judge you by recreating one of the worst moments of your history, these mock trials from the 21st century. And I will be your judge, and I will oversee this procedure to show you how bad you are, And all the Starship people are, of course, they're saying like, well, but we are 200-300 years in the future from this point in time. We've gotten better since then. But this entity doesn't want to hear it. It's clearly very biased and says basically that they have to solve the puzzle given to them by the judge in the 24 hours they have down on Farpoint Station, and if they don't solve it, then they'll all be condemned. They won't be allowed into the next quadrant of the galaxy to keep exploring and doing Federation things.
Yeah.
So we get to know a little bit about the crew. Do you want to tell us about the crew?
So we have Jean-Luc Picard,
Mm-hmm.
who is the captain, played by Patrick Stewart, who is an extreme, he's shown to be like a man who is not very much in touch with his feelings. Then we have Data, is probably the second most like standout character.
Sure.
Who is
Data is played by Brent Spiner.
Oh, thank you. And he is an android.
He's an android, but not a robot, as we will soon find out in future episodes.
Oh, yeah, no, he is fully functional.
He's fully functional.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's in like silver face paint, and he's kind of like your computer character, right? He's like your classic sci-fi. I don't understand jokes. I don't understand humor. I have an encyclopedic knowledge of all of human
Yeah,
history. That kind of,
yeah,
I do math well. I know all the protocols. That he's that type of character.
yeah. Then we have okay. I'm not gonna bring up everyone, but I'm going to bring the ones that are important for this episode. We
Sure.
have Deanna Troy. She
Mm-hmm.
is
Played by
uh,
Marina Sirtis.
uh, yeah, and she's kind of like a psychic. She can
Mm-hmm.
feel people's real emotions.
To the sort of, I guess. I mean, I thought this was dead by 1989, but maybe it wasn't. This
I mean,
old sci-fi
probably,
belief that extrasensory perception was scientifically founded and would become more common in the future. And so
yeah,
she is a psychic.
yeah.
Like,
I mean, she's a
yeah.
psychic because she's half betazoid or something like that. She's like an alien, half alien. So that's where she gets them from. Then we have Tasha Yar, who is
Security
kind of
officer.
security officer, who is this very kind of. I mean, today we would call her queer coded. I don't know if they called her queer coded back then.
Yeah, I know,
Uh,
right? She is very
woman.
heavily queer coded, but
She
then she's
has
not at
like
all
a
played as a queer character later
yeah.
on. Yeah, her
She
name is
has
Denise.
a
She's played by Denise Crosby.
yeah. She has like she has like short blonde hair, and
Yeah.
it's very funny because she's like clearly meant to be a subversion of tropes in women, where
Mm-hmm.
she's like angry and emotional and aggressive, and it's like everything you wouldn't want your security officer to.
Yeah, and also it's not that much of a subversion, right? Like it is a subversion that she's the security officer. It is somewhat of a subversion that she's angry instead of another emotion, but it does immediately resonate as here's a woman in an important position, but she's too emotional to do it right. Right?
Yeah,
Like that's the immediate impression I got is that this was the trope that they were sort of playing
yeah,
into. Like here she is, she's the head of security, she's important, but because she's a woman, she's just flipping out all the time. And they definitely toned
yeah.
down on that in the third and fourth episode, but in the first two episodes, she is a liability. She is just flipping out all the
She's
time
actively
and bringing up
very
her past trauma and like she just
yeah,
doesn't seem like a good person to be a security officer at all.
yeah. I mean, maybe I didn't think of it as such a bad thing in the sense that like I had the same thoughts on the security officer guy in Firefly. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, it's that character. It's that character
Yeah.
trope, except
Well, and
it's
so
woman.
I was just thinking that, right? To the audience, Star Trek is in many ways the quintessential science fiction drama where every character is a professional who does their job well and doesn't let isn't tempted by things like greed or personal ambition, but really lives for these higher humanist ideals. Um, and so it's not that you can't have a security officer who's bad at their job. It's just that this is a show where everybody else is so very good at their job that Tasha
Yeah,
really stands out, right?
yeah.
Um,
I mean,
like
to be
that
fair,
that
the
you I
thing
think you
I
kind of have
think
to understand that to understand why it feels kind of a little weird and
yeah.
problematic, right?
I also think that we are thinking in a very pragmatic way, but like
Mm.
narratively, the security officer is the fight person, and you want the fight person to get into fights. Like
Sure, but like
I
older Star Trek didn't have security officers, right?
mhm,
Or at least not ones who were named or important, right? And when people got into fights, right? Like, I mean, Kirk was a very emotional character, right? But like Spock got into fights too, and he was, completely unemotional.
mhm,
So I don't know. I don't know about the whole situation with
mhm.
her in episodes 1 and 2. She seems like a huge liability. She seems like she is very bad at her job actually because she
Oh
doesn't
yeah,
keep cool.
she's not
She
good at her
doesn't keep
job.
from escalating the situation, right?
Yeah.
She's like, she enters a situation, a minor inconvenience arises, and she turns it into a major inconvenience.
Mhm. Yeah. So anyway, the to kind of speed through the plot, the alien who is extremely judgmental kind of tells the Enterprise ship that their next challenge and Farpoint will be basically used by them to judge humanity as a whole and their ability to solve conflicts. And on
Yeah,
Farpoint, strange things happen, as it seems basically every time that anyone from the Federation has a need, it is immediately served. Also,
yeah,
there's this station that they built seems to be very implausible like implausible with the rest of
Given
the
the
planet's
technology of the
architecture,
locals.
technology, and resources.
Yeah.
So it's kind of suspicious. And when they get there,
And when the needs are met, we have to say, when the needs are met, they're met in a very strange way. Somebody will say, "Oh, I wish there was a bowl of apples," and then the camera will pan away as the discussion continues, and then the camera will pan back, and a bowl of apples will be there, like as
yeah,
if it had simply, as if you just like speak your wishes aloud, like to a genie, and they simply materialize when your back is turned.
yeah, exactly. And so and once the crew gets there, Deanna Troy, the psychic, senses like a widespread sense of distress and like suffering and loneliness in the whole station. Which I don't remember how it all plays out, but basically,
Basically, the way that it plays out is that they investigate this, and they're getting closer and closer to the like area of the disturbance. But then also, an alien spaceship is coming in from far away with great psychic powers and is going to like destroy the planet, and that's what creates sort of the tension that they need to find whatever's trapped here before the thing in orbit vaporizes the planet 24 hours later, right?
yeah,
Before their deadline is up with the judgmental guy. And in the end,
yeah.
it turns out the judgmental guy is a psychic alien squid, and the creature that is trapped here, being forced to fulfill their wishes, is also a psychic alien squid. That's where the technology is
No,
coming
that's
from.
a smart version of the plot, but I was baffled at the end. The spaceship that is bombarding is a psychic alien squid, and the
Yeah.
creature under the city is a psychic alien squid that can create things with its mind. The
Hmm.
judgmental guy is a different species of like psychic beings that can create matter with their mind that has nothing to do with these psychic alien squids.
Well,
That
that's not
that's
how I
what
remember it and how I read it, but based on
No, no,
episode
no. We
3,
had a
where
conversation.
based on episode 3, where like the ultimate what actually happened here is not explained well. It's something I noticed in the first 4 episodes where they're not great at having that scene where they fully explain everything that happened to you.
Yeah.
So I assumed that this guy was a manifestation of the second ship, right? Maybe he
That
wasn't.
was my interpretation in the beginning. And I remember that I was like, oh, so this guy is the second squid is this guy, right? And
Yeah,
like was like it seemed like this, right? Yes. But then the two jellyfish were like swimming in space and I don't know making out.
yeah,
And Deanna Troy said, "Oh, I'm feeling so much gratefulness and love from them towards us. They
yeah,
are
because
so
they're mates
grateful to us."
basically.
Yeah, exactly. And then the judgmental guy was still like, "Oh, fucking humans! I guess this time you were lucky and you saved them, but I'm not sure if if you will hold up to this standard in the future." And tell him to fuck off. So they're very
Mm,
clearly not the same creature.
yeah.
And I said at that point, wait, we have two different species of like psychic beings who can create matter with their brain in the same episode. How are they not the same? And then we
Mm.
laughed about it.
No, you're right. They're not the same. I'm sorry. I'm just while you were talking, I was skimming Wikipedia for some quotes because there's some interesting stuff here that I think explains some of what we saw. And it turns out that this is the recurring nemesis Q, an
Mm.
alien Ferengi. Or sorry, no, it was just that this is the nemesis Q. Sorry, alien Ferengi is something else. But the recurring nemesis Q was introduced in the pilot. So yeah, you're right. This is a different psychic. This is not the squid. He's his own character.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, but your intuition was, I think, the correct one in terms of writing a good story. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
anyways, it
So
was
that was episode
interesting.
1. Episode 2 was The Naked Now, which was surprising to me, shocking to me. It's just a total rehash. This is a popular episode from the original series. There's basically a virus on board that's making people drunk and act in strange ways. It's a great way to sort of explore the psychology of a character because it gives them a reason to spout their internal anxieties and
Yeah,
feelings and emotional attractions to other people. Um, but it gives them a plausible way to do that, and you get to have this moment where like this fugue state is sort of taking over the ship, and you get to see the character sort of try and deal with it, deal with the other people's craziness, but then they catch the craziness themselves, right? And you can see the crazy bouncing off of one another, and you get to have these fun moments. In this episode, for example, the main threat is that there is a star that's going to implode, and if the star implodes, they can fly away from it at half impulse speed. If you're not a Star Trek aficionado like myself, I'm not an aficionado, don't come for me, but it basically, they have impulse speed, and then they have warp 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So like you can imagine kind of like a car with 7 gears. This is half impulse speed is half of first gear. It is very slow by this universe's standard, right?
Yes.
Like we need to slowly roll the car out of the way of the explosion and we will be fine. But because everybody's drunk, this becomes a huge challenge, right? And there's obviously like there's humor in that, right? That we're facing actually a fairly not difficult challenge, but because we're all drunk, we're having trouble addressing
Yeah.
it. And then it's of
But
course
the
a huge
musical
icebreaker.
cue was so funny.
Yeah, they were like, we should be able to easily drive away from this at half speed, and the music is like dum dum dum, because the music knows that later in the episode the engine core is going to get hijacked and partially destroyed. But we don't know that yet, so it's very funny as an audience because you're like, wait, why isn't that bad? That sounds easy. But yeah, and obviously it's a huge icebreaker for the characters of the crew, right? Later on in episode 4 or 5, you could go, that thing you said to me, right? Or, that desire you voiced to me, right? And you can like sort of get back to like things and like show these characters grow together as a team. So that was the Naked Now. And the Naked Now has no scientific explanation for what's happening. They pretend they have a scientific explanation for what's happening. They try to use the same thing or a similar thing to what was used in the original series, where it's a series of water molecules that get bound together by powerful gravity that then take carbon from that's already inside your body and they turn it into alcohol, and then they spread through sweat.
Insane.
Yeah, it's completely insane, but it was written in the 60s. And so like whatever. But obviously for 1989, it's like also, and I'm just from a modern perspective, it's like, this is not how chemistry works. And a gravity spike that affects these water molecules would affect the people. Like, wouldn't these people just get mushed into the ground? Isn't that what the gravity waves would cause? But anyways, I'm not a physicist and I only know a bit of chemistry, but I know enough chemistry to know that is bullshit.
Yes.
And in this episode...
this episode might not have a lot of scientific explanation, but it has a lot of female excitations, am I right?
Yeah. So, I just want to finish this point.
Yes.
Something I noticed was people talk about Star Trek being the hard science and like, or the hard sci-fi, and Star Wars being like soft sci-fi. None of the science we were presented with in the first 4 episodes made a lick of sense. None of it was remotely plausible. It was very interesting to me. It is true they kind of want to use science to explain things.
Yeah.
And they
it's
kind
more
of
about the intention than the actual result.
Exactly, because in actual fact, they would have you believe in episode 1 that psychic powers are just common and scientifically founded, and that they let you like read other people's emotions. And it's like, in theory, maybe that could...
psychic jellyfish can create matter with their mind.
Giant psychic space jellyfish exist, and it's like, none of these things are really plausible from our modern understanding of physics. Like, in theory, anything could happen. But organisms that are adapted to space is a really difficult place for life to evolve. It doesn't really make a lot of sense that there would be giant biological organisms well adapted to space. Without technology, right? That are just sort of inherently evolved to live in space. That's very implausible in terms of like hard sci-fi concepts. But you could pull it off. But then that being psychic can somehow is a thing, and that like through psychic powers you can just materialize energy out of air. It's like, again, this is kind of very implausible. You could find a scientific structure for it. And then like this whole like water molecule thing was also not very plausible. And then the fourth one is they find an alternate Earth where extremely human-like cultures exist. Going through like extremely human-like individual aliens exist who live in clearly human-inspired human culture, and they're just like, oh, well, it's a planet where all the circumstances were similar to ours, and so they also developed turbines and shit. And it's like, also incredibly implausible. So, like the first 4 episodes, even though they try to bring in hard science, there's some kind of intention to bring in hard science. In actual fact, none of it is even like remotely scientific. It's all very much a fantasy, right? And there's no like, I mean, there's sort of, you could kind of maybe kind of ish come up with scientific explanations for stuff, but it's actually not really very hard science. Like this is not Cixin Liu 3-body problem. Like
No,
it's
not at all.
not even Isaac Asimov like levels of like hard science sci-fi. So I just thought I wanted to note that because I think Star Trek intends to be more scientific and
Yeah,
is maybe 5% scientifically accurate or viable, right?
yeah,
Which is more than
exactly.
Star Wars, but it's not particularly, like more than Star Wars doesn't make it hard sci-fi world building,
Yeah, I think that like they're more like what makes Star Trek what they try to do in Star Trek. I'm not saying they succeed, but
Mm-hmm.
is also that they try to present you with a hard world built world. They're
Mm-hmm.
like this world needs to make in like sense internally,
Mm-hmm.
and Star Wars does not.
Yeah.
Like no one in if you try to justify in Star Wars why they're still running around with swords, you cannot.
Yeah.
You cannot justify that. Like,
And I think you're right. Yeah, I think the world building. I think this is it. The world building of Star Trek is more hard. However, it is not particularly scientific.
yeah, exactly.
And that's, I think, sort of the distinction. Of course, some soft world building comes in there because every episode is a new concept and they get to introduce new shit and make up new shit. And sometimes you feel like between episodes they've forgotten about something that they've established, like how in episode 3 they established that they can fully decontaminate a human body just by
Hmm.
sending them via transporter beam. And then episode 4 they transport somebody who's been poisoned and they have to specifically inject them with a cure. And you think to yourself, well, couldn't you just decontaminate them on the way up and get rid of the poison? You wouldn't need it, right? Um, so, I mean, there are elements of the hard world building that they also forget about that I don't want to leave them off the hook. But yeah, I think that it is more hard world build, right? Like a tractor beam and a repulsor beam. These things actually like mean things between episodes consistently. The
Hmm.
beaming technology works relatively consistently between episodes, right? Like it feels like the Federation. You know what I mean? Yeah, we've said it. I'm not saying it any better now. So yeah, but okay, let's get on to the how sexy episode 3 is.
Oh yeah, Data fucks.
That was the best moment. By far, the best moment of the 4 episodes we watched is Data getting drunk, getting seduced by the security. Okay, what was hilarious about the moment was Data fucking. The fact that as soon as any of the women got drunk on this ship, they immediately wanted to fuck dudes, and that none of the dudes seemed to have a sense of personal space. Like, I have to say, if anybody who I found attractive was coming up to me, appearing kind of drunk and sweaty, and immediately wanted to caress my pecs, I would take a step back from them and go, "Hey, whoa, what's going on?" But all the men in
Yeah.
this show are just like, "Hey, I guess, let's go."
Or
And
even
so they
just
get it.
like, or even just like, I will stoically stand here and keep saying no, but I will not
Exactly,
take
right?
any. Uh,
But I will let you touch me and cover me in your sweat.
yeah,
Like, have you
and
ever had it? How often in your life do humans reach out and touch your face? I was like, I can think of like 2 people who I would let do that. Other people I would be like, wait, why are you touching my face? You know what I mean? But it's just like why are they like, but anyway, so the men get infected too, but all the women are immediately like super horny
well,
when
to
they
be
get
fair,
drunk.
Donna Troy is not. Sorry, Donna Troy. Fucking
Deanna
Deanna
Troy.
Troy. Yeah, Donna Troy is from
She
Superman or
is
something.
kind of. I mean, she's the one who's caressing, the first in command guy's pecs and is like, "Wouldn't you rather be?"
Oh,
He goes, "Let's get you to
oh,
the
right,
med
right,
bay,"
right.
and she
Never mind.
goes,
I take
"Wouldn't
it
you
back.
rather be alone with me?"
I take it back. I take it back. All of them. The doctor who has a son and is by far the better one of the 3.
Oh my! I
Deanna
thought she
Troy.
was resisting it too. I thought they were
No.
gonna like, because she calls on Picard, and I thought, oh, this is funny. They're gonna make you think that she's horny for Picard, but actually she's just trying to keep it together because, you know, her and Picard are sort of the parents of the ship, the people who have their emotions most under control, who are the most competent. Nope, she wants to fuck him, and he wants to fuck her too.
Yeah. It's interesting. The only man that we see to be actively horny in this one is Picard. The other ones have
Yeah.
to be kind of like lured into it, but Picard is actively like right there with like right there with her, is like, I know it's wrong, but damn it, I want
Yeah.
to. But yeah,
And the
also
only
I want to
person who
say,
really seems to be able to. Oh,
Ceres,
sorry.
you have consistently expected
Mhm.
better from the writers of this show, and I
I
have
know.
consistently been right.
So
I
I've
was
grown
like,
up.
she's gonna try to fuck him, and Ceres was like, you'll
They
see.
want you
You're
to think
gonna...
that, but it's not going to be that. Yeah, exactly. No, okay. So, so yeah, and just to cover the Data moment, there's a really funny moment where the security, person,
Yar.
Lieutenant Yar, says to Data, because she's all drunk and horned up, because for some reason when women become drunk, they become horny, and so
From
she's
my
all drunk
experience, that is true. Nothing, no
she
lies
was all drunk.
detected.
She's drunk and horny, and she's like trying to seduce Data, who funnily does not resist at all, who becomes immediately infected. And she goes, "You're fully functional, right?" And he goes, "Yes, I'm fully functional." And she goes, "Yeah, but like, how fully functional are you?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm extremely fully functional. I'm trained in multiple pleasuring techniques." And she's like, "Perfect." And then we cut to
And then
black,
he
right?
gives her a dumb smile and just follows her in.
Yeah, he does this. He does a really goofy, lopsided smile, like, "Hey,
Yeah,
let's go."
the only thing that is missing is if you look direct into the camera, like,
Yeah, and had like
like
winked
raised
or
an
something.
eyebrow.
Exactly. And so then the next time we see Data, he just appear. The comedic timing on this is like perfect. Picard and Worf and others are having like a serious discussion on the bridge, and in the background you just see the elevator open, and Data comes
He's
out.
standing, it's like he's standing there, completely leaning sideways, almost perfectly
He's
diagonal.
jauntily leaning on his elbow on the side of the elevator, swaggers / stumbles into the bridge, and has like the biggest, goofiest grin on his face. It's so fucking funny.
It was so funny, just like the opening of the door, and him just like standing there, like down, down.
And he
That's
doesn't
right.
need to say anything. There's no line required. It's all body language. It's so hilarious. So we learn androids aren't robots. They have all the biological parts of them that humans have too.
And they're into it.
And they're into it. Yeah, it's so funny. But yeah, okay. So let's talk about all the women are horned up. So all the women are like strangely emotional and horned up, and not as professional as the other characters when they're drunk. But also in the first episode, Lieutenant Yar is flipping out all the time, and also the regressive, evil human culture of the 21st century is full of little people and Chinese people and black people in like traditional Chinese clothing or in rags.
That was very weird. Like their idea of like, I mean, first the idea that going back because of like regressing as a society means that we would like replicate the clothes of the past.
Yeah.
That
It's
was
insane,
so,
right?
yeah.
Like you get hit by a nuclear bomb and the next day you're like, time to put on a turban, I guess.
Yeah, I'm going to the clothes museum and stealing all the Renaissance man clothes.
So, that was okay. So Lieutenant Yar.
I mean, to be fair, the little people were supposed to be like, oh, radiation and mutations, and now there's more genetic disease.
If I was
like,
mutated to be a little person, that doesn't mean I have to be a savage, clapping, violence-loving audience member. The way they were all portrayed.
But like everyone was a science-hating, violence-loving savage in that room.
I don't know if the judge wasn't. The judge, like, his hatred was controlled, And
But
like,
the judge was the alien. All the others were representations of real
yeah, but the
humans.
one guy who's in charge of the entire assembly is a white guy who's in control of his feelings and who isn't mutated and who is symmetrical in his facial appearance.
I don't know. I feel like by the narrative framework of like that guy is not like these others. That guy is the alien. It's
Sure,
like
like
fine.
here, it's not a smoking gun, but it's uncomfortable. And the way Yar is treated in episodes 1 and 2 isn't necessarily a smoking gun on sexism, but it's uncomfortable. And then the way
Yes.
that she and the doctor and literally all the women behave during episode 3 is not necessarily on its own a smoking gun, but now there's a pattern. There's a pattern being established, right? And then and then the nail in the coffin, I think, is episode 4. We go to an old regressive Earth dominated by
yeah.
honor and by a strictly hierarchical society with an honor code that is technologically and culturally behind the Federation. Their culture is literally called by Picard the kind of pompous strutting that caused us so many issues hundreds of years ago. And all the people are black and they all wear turbans. And the
Yeah,
first
it's
thing the
very
black
West
leader
African
man
kingdoms.
does, and the first thing the black leader man does is kidnap Lieutenant Yar and then later wants to marry her. And in order to marry her, his current wife challenges Lieutenant Yar and they have a martial combat where all the men are like watching and licking their lips. And that to me is a smoking gun. This show is not nearly as liberal as it thinks that it is. And I don't think it's nearly as liberal for its time as the original series was for its time. Like, I think this show is more liberal than the original series, and there's definitely some problematic stuff, very problematic stuff in the original series. But for the 60s, the original series was more advanced than the Next Generation is for 1989.
Yeah, it was crazy because I would like to add that like they think that their progressive button of the episode is finding out that a woman in this culture can also take multiple men as husbands.
Yeah.
That's their wink at the audience. But like literally the first in the start of the episode, I literally did the thing where I kept saying this will happen next, and Sarah's was like no, and then it
Please.
happened.
Yeah,
It started
like when we
like
first
as soon
saw
as they
them,
were introducing, as
we
soon as
were
they
like,
were
"Oh God,
introduced,
this is awful." Yeah, as soon as we saw them introduced, we were both like, "Oh God, this is awful." And
yeah,
then Thea was like, "Oh, I get it. These guys are going to be sexists." And I was like, "No." And then we hit like play, and then they're like, "A woman as a security officer?" And I was like,
yeah,
"Oh God,
it's
they are
like
sexist." They
yeah,
literally
and
did like the kind of like the actor didn't fully lean into it, but the main actor had a deep, resonant voice with slight accentuations to make it sound like a modern day African accent, right?
yeah,
Like they didn't
yeah,
even go for a
absolutely.
different voice or a different accent or having
No,
like a single white dude anywhere in this culture
it's
or
just
anything
West
like that.
Africa. They're just
Yeah.
West Africans.
And it was
And yeah, and then he went and then he said, "Hey, I can. She's exactly what I need." And I was like, "Oh my god, he's going to take her, and he's going to try to make her his like wives." And then I said, "Oh, one of his wives. I bet he has multiple ones."
yeah, well then he has multiple wives and he wants her to be his main wife. So it's like this show, yeah, it's interesting because it feels like the show is trying to be progressive, but I think it's actually way more proud of itself for being progressive than it actually is progressive. We have a disabled character, Geordie LaForge, played by LeVar Burton, I believe. Yep. Geordie LaForge is a guy who can't see. He's blind, but he's got a cool visor that lets him see even better than a normal human. He can like see molecules and radiation and stuff. And that's
Yeah,
cool, right? At first, you think. But then in episode 3, he gets drunk, and the first thing he wants when he's drunk is to see normally, in quotation marks. To see like a normal human, in quotation marks. To fit in with everyone else's beautiful, delicate eyes. And it's like, fuck, right? Like, it's not at all empowering. Their idea is, oh, well, he can see with the rest of us, but we all know that in the back of his head, he's an outsider, and he knows he's an outsider, and
yeah.
he
He
wishes he wasn't.
secretly desires to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's just like, so, yeah. And,
Do you want to hear my take on like all of this on
mhm.
the topic of watch or botch with what you just said?
Yeah.
And some information I'm looking at right now on the Wikipedia page of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Oh wait, I have my Wikipedia page. I wanted to drop this.
Okay, I don't know if it's the same thing, but you can go.
All right. Well, you give me yours first. You give me yours first.
Okay. My thing is that the showrunner of Star Trek: The Next Generation and creator is Gene Roddenberry. Gene
Yes.
Roddenberry was born in 1921 and is the
Yeah.
creator of the original Star Trek. So for
Yeah.
him, this was very much like I get to do this again, and I get to kind of like correct it a little bit and like
Mm.
bring it up with the times. And he probably saw his mistakes in the first Star Trek, and he felt like he was correcting them. But also, he's a man born in 1921, and it's very much a Francis Ford Coppola Megalopolis effect to me, where like this man used to be progressive, and he still is trying to be progressive, but like his progressiveness is clearly not caught up all the way.
Exactly. Like now we have 3 female characters, right? In the first one, you only had 1 female character, and she was the communications expert, which meant she was often kind of acting like a secretary in the sense that she was relaying information back and forth, right? Whereas
they actually make
these
fun of
3
this in the Star Trek parody movie, the one that I told you about.
Yeah.
Which one is it? I don't remember it.
In this one, we've got 3 female characters, and one of them gets to be a security specialist, one of them gets to be a doctor, and the third one is a psychotherapist, basically. And so that one leans into female stereotypes, but the other ones don't, right? As much, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's part of it. Here's a quote
and I
that
wanted
I have.
to say he died. Yeah, then like he didn't. Yeah, he died, but he didn't die when he didn't die, and then they hired someone else. They hired someone else for season 2 already. But yeah, I wanted to say every season has a different showrunner, and in shows, showrunners are the most like they tend to be the people who have the most influence over the show, because like the director of each episode tends to change, and the writing room can change, but the showrunners are the ones who give the direction and set the identity of the show the most, compared to like movies where the director tends to be the one who is the most in charge. So I wanted to say maybe season 2 might be like a different, might feel very different, and because we also talked about how this show became really popular in its later seasons.
Yeah, so one of the things we looked at when we looked at IMDb is that like most of its awards are later on into the show. So we thought the Watcher Botch concept might not work perfectly for this
also,
series.
Looking at the dates of like when these showrunners were born, and it's funny, like literally feels like every season or every year of the show skips a decade in terms of when the writer was born. Because the first guy is 1921, next one is 1939, then 47, and the last one, 48. But like still, it's like every 2 seasons we skip a decade in terms of when the guy who's running the show was born.
So I'm going to throw some stats at you here. Or some.
By the way, was this the thing that you wanted to talk about?
Well, it's related, yeah.
Okay.
So here's the quote I wanted to give you. The first season was marked by a revolving door of writers, with Gerald, Fontana, and others quitting after disputes with Roddenberry. Roddenberry virtually rewrote in quotation marks, the first 15 episodes because of his, quote, dogmatic intention to depict human interaction, quote, without drawing on their baser motives of greed, lust, and power.
Damn.
Which is insane, by the way, because this show is so horny. The costumes are so tight and revealing, and I don't fucking believe for a moment that Gene Roddenberry wasn't the horniest man alive. Writers found the show's quote-unquote Bible constricting and ridiculous, and could not deal with Roddenberry's ego and treatment of them. It stated, for example, that, quote, regular characters all share a feeling of being a part of a band of brothers and sisters. As in the original Star Trek, we invite the audience to share the same feeling of affection for our characters, end quote. David Gerald claimed that at one point, Roddenberry's lawyer came aboard and started taking apart 6 months of work, including the removal of a gay couple that Roddenberry had promised would be included in the series, which made Gerald decide to leave the show. Mark Byrne of the DVD Journal wrote of Season 1, a typical episode relied on trite plot points, clumsy allegories, dry and stilted dialogue, and a characterization that was taking too long to feel relaxed and natural. Other targets of criticism included poor special effects, and the plots being resolved by the deus ex machina of Wesley Crusher saving the ship. Boy, do I agree.
Boy, do I agree. Except I thought that that the special effects were crappy for now, but they're good for its time. But turns out they weren't.
They were not good for this time either, it seems. Yeah, and this whole idea that Wesley Crusher, who's basically a teenage son of the Doctor, whose name is Crusher, Dr. Crusher, which, by the way, I think is an extremely odd and stilted name. I don't know why you would put that. Does not feel natural into your script. But anyways, Wesley Crusher is her son, and he's kind of like a boy genius who wants to be let in and to steer the ship. But of course, that's a huge responsibility, and they don't let children do that. And there's like there's a kind of a continuous conflict there. And the show kind of makes it appear as though the conflict is that the captain is kind of unreasonable and he should let the child have more access to the most sensitive area of the ship. And I don't agree, and I think it's kind of odd, and I don't think Wesley Crusher is a particularly endearing child character. I mean, he's a kid, he doesn't need to be endearing, but like I don't judge the character itself, but as a viewer, the character is not entertaining or relatable to me. And then he's like somehow a boy genius who saves the ship's engine at the last moment at the end of episode 3, so that he repels some debris that was hurtling towards them at the last moment, so that they all make it out of there alive. And after his kind of behavior, I think I don't know. Obviously, he was drunk on space virus, so yeah. But so I see why they don't kick him off the ship and never let him do anything again. But it's a strange situation, and I really relate with this. Trite plot points, clumsy allegories, dry and stilted dialogue, or a characterization that's taking too long to feel relaxed and natural. There's a moment in episode 4, for example, where Picard calls out the fact that he is monologuing, and then they kind of spend another 30 seconds of commentary where where the crew is like, well, you get to monologue sometimes, captains. And he goes, but not about stuff we all already know. Calling out your own bad exposition doesn't make it good exposition.
Yeah. I think that we will. Yeah, I think that like maybe I will give this show a chance to continue watching, but like I'll just skip the season 2.
Here's the thing. I don't think it necessarily gets better on season 2 because I have a little blurb here. Denise Crosby and Gates McFadden, who are the security officer and the doctor respectively in season 1, were removed for season 2. McFadden then returned for season 3 as a regular and remained as such for the rest of the series, while Crosby appeared sporadically. So the first thing, all right, Gene Roddenberry isn't doing this right. Get somebody else to run this, or maybe Gene Roddenberry died. I honestly don't know. But we've got a new showrunner for season 2. Let's fix some of these issues. First, cut 2/3 of the women.
Yeah.
And then season 3, somebody clearly fought for the Doctor to come back, and then literally Lieutenant Yar, who is such a main character in the ensemble cast of season 1. It's crazy to me. She never comes back, I guess. I mean, she comes back as an irregular guest, but she's not like so all this time they spend on her in season 1 is like literally wasted.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say I kind of agree with some of the things that are being said here. I don't think that there is I do see the difficulty that the Star Trek universe, which is so pro-humanist and has the Federation being so good all the time, creates issues with telling stories where there's any kind of internal tension. The tension always has to kind of come from outside, and the crew is just kind of always awesome. I can see how some writers would feel that is frustrating, but I think much more so the writing is bad because it's just like it's so horny all the time and so trite and stilted and sexist and stuff like that. So I mean I don't know, like this is the early 90s, right? I imagine in my mind, as someone who didn't actually really live through the 90s, as the 90s being like this time that was actually pretty liberal, but it doesn't feel like it. This show is like really wants you partially to watch it because they think their characters are hot and has other feelings.
I mean, even the early 2000s could you could have a lot of just casual sexism that today we're like, oh damn, that was sexist, and back then they would have been like, it's just a joke. So I don't know. I mean, I think that the 1990s believed that they were very liberal, but I highly doubt that they were more liberal than we were in the last decade. So yeah, I I mean, it's not that I don't think that it's like strictly a symptom of the 90s because the show wants to be more progressive than the 90s were as a whole.
Mm.
It's I think to me this shows that there was still maybe Gene Roddenberry. Like I don't know how bad the second season is, but like the first season to me is very much like, as you said, bad allegory. Like they want to create these scenarios that are supposed to be like teaching you a lesson or telling you something about the real world,
Yeah.
and they're just so clumsy. They keep tripping over themselves and like creating weird implications and bad
Yeah.
unintended consequences. Like I don't think that they meant these episodes to come across as so sexist. Uh, they might have even thought, oh yeah, we're going to show that women do have sexual desires, and it's just not just the men who are always chasing them.
Exactly.
Women have their own internal needs and desires. Because back for a while in the past, it was like women have no sexual fantasies.
Yeah. No,
Women
I
are
agree.
always. So I think they might have even felt really good about themselves about making all the women horny. They're like, actually, the men are the ones who are not being horny. They're not the
Yeah.
horn dogs that we think as they are. The women are. And they
Yeah.
were like, we have
And
actually kind of looped
here's
around
a little bit about season
there.
2. The series underwent significant changes during its yeah. The
Yeah,
series
like over the
underwent
last
significant
30
changes during its
years.
second season.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I believe that the second season might
Oh,
have
I think we're
suffered
out of
from.
sync. I
Oh,
feel like you can't hear me.
I can hear you. Ba 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 ba
Huh.
ba. Hello.
Hi. Yeah.
Hello.
So what is the point that you are finishing? Why don't you finish your
No, I
point?
was just finishing the point. I was just saying, like, um, because it's so, like, it wants to be so explicitly political about its messages, we might also be misconstruing some of its intentions. Because
Yeah.
if the stereotype is that women are emotional and men are so stoic and rational and women cannot control what's in their pants, then of course this episode is awful. But if back then the standard was women need to be like, Star Wars Han Solo and Princess Leia, Han has to lean in and she has to say no, but then he cannot, if he insists hard enough, then he will fall for her. For someone raised on this, for someone born in the 1920s and who has grown up, who has seen the 1950s and 60s and 70s and their attitude towards women's sexuality, you might think, oh no, all these women, they have their own desires. And at the time, he was breaking stereotypes. Fair. Potentially, because we don't have context.
I mean, it's still sexist, right? They're just trying not to be.
Yeah.
You can give them points for attempting, but you can still criticize them for tripping over their own feet. I
Yes.
wanted to read you a little bit about season 2. The series underwent significant changes during its second season. Beverly Crusher was replaced by another actress. The ship's recreational area, 10 Forward, and its mysterious bartender / advisor, Guinean, played by Whoopi Goldberg, appeared for the first time. So they cut 2 women, but they also added 2 women. Not directly in replacement, but, owing to the 1988 Writers Guild of America strike, though, the number of episodes was cut down. Some of the scripts were actually adapted from different projects, and the season finale is just a clip show. So, still, nevertheless, season 2 as a whole is widely regarded as significantly better than season 1, and I think I can see why. I think getting the Roddenberry influence sort of out makes sense. I don't know. I think this is a show where you'd have to watch some more of its seasons, and I think there are elements of it that are very interesting and fun. It's definitely an entertaining watch from a modern perspective, but it's definitely got its rough edges, especially in the beginning. It's got a lot of rough edges,
Yeah.
liberal things that it commits to but doesn't follow through on. One thing I've just at the side I want to note, for example, is that they try to equal opportunity objectify the characters. So as sort of compensation for the
Oh yeah.
miniskirts of the original series, in episode 1, they put at least one man in a miniskirt in a few background scenes. They never follow through on that. But they also don't stop sexualizing their characters. This is the era of no miniskirts, but everyone is wearing extremely skin-tight clothing. Like, you can see Picard's ribs through his shirt, right? So, like, not much is being left to the imagination, and all of these characters are being sexualized in ways that, like, are just really not necessary for a team of professionals going through space, spreading good humanist ideals.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting. The position of this show is so interesting. It reminds me a lot about our feelings about the graphic novel Kingdom Come.
Mm.
You know. Uh, but yeah, the humanist. Do you think Deep Space Nine is better than this? Is this Deep
So,
Space Nine the one? The next one, the one with the Borg?
so I think there's a few things at work here. I think the first is um, something that Star Trek has to tackle with is the fact that the original series was not about the entire cast. It was about three main characters. It was about, Kirk, Spock, and Bones, really. And their relationship and the relationship of being a captain and the loneliness you feel as a captain. And so there wasn't internal crew conflict necessary, really. And when there was crew conflict, it was simple and it was handled briefly. The Doctor was for the quick and dirty way, Spock was for the Vulcan way, and Kirk was for the right way, and made the deciding vote, right? Um, and like, uh, so that show didn't need like internal conflict in the crew. Everything could be good with the Federation all the time because it was more about the conflicts between Kirk and the outside world and his position as captain than it was really. And so I think that concept doesn't age well if you turn it into an ensemble cast where it's where every character gets sort of their own episodes and it's about each individual character's character arcs, because then you need conflict between the characters because it's about the characters. And the original series is very much about the exploration more than the characters. You don't really learn that much about the Federation. It's more about, oh, I have a cool idea for a desert world where there's a salt monster, right? Oh, I have a cool idea for what could happen if some unnamed characters on the crew got psychic powers and became supervillains. And now we need to fight them, right? That's like the closest they get to crew conflict. So I think that's one element. I think another element is because they are now predominantly ensemble cast shows, every show is going to need time to find the swing of things. And I don't know if episode 1 of season 1 of Deep Space Nine is necessarily better than, like, season 2 or 3 of The Next Generation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once they've sort of found the swing of things and, things have sort of gotten better over time. Also, Deep Space Nine takes the Star Trek formula and applies it to kind of a very difficult situation because it's a space station. It's not a spaceship. So it becomes much more static and it becomes much more about the characters. And I've watched a few episodes of it and I found that the episodes were soap operatic and the plot points were contrived and that it wasn't really very much about the science. It was about the characters interacting. And that there was at least 17 moments an episode where I would go, how the hell would that work? That doesn't make any sense. There's no way they have a culture based on that. Or there's no way this technology works like this. Or that doesn't track with this other thing that they said. Or if this is why he did that, then why did he do this other thing later? This reveal makes no sense, right? So I watched some of Deep Space Nine. I did not feel like it was necessarily that much better. So in that regard, right? Of course they have a black captain, right? And so I think on social issues they're going to be more progressive, right? And then they have a female captain in Voyager, and I think Voyager is definitely more progressive than, like, each show becomes more progressive and more, eventually, the modern shows like Discovery feature a lot more like gay and queer and trans characters, right? And stuff like that. So I think my opinion would be that the original series is kind of a little bit of a freak accident in how it works so well, and that the core concepts that make it work are not necessarily translated in the following ensemble shows that come, and that they're kind of their own brand of goodness. And so if you want kind of what the original series had to offer, you might not find it so much in the later shows because they kind of change the core concept. I think that in these ensemble shows, all the characters and actors and writers need time to figure out what works. And so each of the shows is going to have a bad original season. And I think that if you don't like trite and contrived plot points and plot dynamics, you're not going to like Star Trek, I think. I've watched some of Discovery, I've watched some of Deep Space Nine, I've watched some of The Next Generation now, and I've watched a lot of the original series. It's always a bit contrived. It never feels like it all perfectly clicks in some Sandersonian manner.
Mm.
The writing it's always what the writing makes you imagine about the future that is
Yeah.
inspiring and interesting and rewarding. But the writing itself is never so amazing that
Yeah.
like it's the main draw of the show.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Well, I feel like we could talk about this forever, but I think we also came to a good ending point. What do you think?
All right. Then let's get into the final the final assessment. Watch or botch? Would you watch more of the show? Are you going to watch more of the show?
I think it's skip a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm gonna try season 2. If I don't like it, I'm gonna try season 3. If I don't like it, I go okay, bye. Okay. If by season 3 I don't like it, then I don't care. But
Yeah.
I'm willing to give it a couple of more shots for sure.
Yeah. I think my final conclusion, I agree with your approach. I think your approach is sensible. With my limited time, I am willing to say I will give Star Trek a shot again in the future.
Mm-hmm.
But my childhood wonder at the original series has not yet been recaptured. And none of the shows have, for me, lived up to the potential I would hope that they would. And so I think for at least a little while, I'm not going to be giving Star Trek another shot. But at some point in the future, I might give Star Trek a shot. I don't know if it'll be in The Next Generation or if instead I'll watch something maybe more modern. Like I heard Picard was supposed to be pretty good. There's some pretty interesting stuff they do with androids in that show. So, but that's where I land on it. I think watch or botch, mostly botch. But if I were to give it a shot again, I would do what you did and skip the rest of season 1 and like jump in at season 2 or 3.
Perfect. Do we have any plugs?
I have a plug. Do you know Slay the Spire?
Heard about it.
Slay the Spire is a card game roguelike where you travel through a tower dungeon, go floor to floor, and what your character can do is determined by the cards in your deck. Every turn you draw like 6 cards from your deck, and then you discard them all at the end of your turn. And you have like energy that you can spend on your cards. If you like Magic the Gathering, it is Magic-like. It's like drafting, right? You start with a functioning deck and a functioning strategy, and then you add 1 card after every room. And so you can slowly morph your deck from the starting deck into a variety of sort of decks that are available. It's a really cool, fun, and strategic game. I like the visuals of the game. I like the way that it tells stories, which is in a way where it doesn't really care that you don't need to understand the story at all. And they're like very aware of that. Like they have like a great subtle storytelling sort of thing where they're just like, here's some stuff if you're interested in it, but you don't really have to pay attention to it. And lastly, I think the strategy of the game is really amazing. There's lots of interesting decks you can draft, and it's really about learning those synergies and learning this card may look cool, but it's awful in my deck, and so I'm not going to use it, right? And how to use all of those things. I'm getting used to it. I just recently started playing it. The reason I want to plug it...
What do you play it on?
Exactly. The reason I want to plug it is available on PC, but it is also available on mobile. And it runs great on mobile. It's not like one of these mobile games that like fucking destroys your thing. It does have like 2.9 gigabytes, but it's not online, and it seems to pretty efficiently... Like my phone doesn't get really hot or start to melt or anything. Like when I play Magic Arena on my phone, like my phone is like dying. This game, not as much. So that is really cool. And it's only $10 on the mobile store. You pay up front, you own the game, and all of its content forever. So that's why I want to plug it, because I recently downloaded it on my phone and I've been having a ton of fun with it.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
I have a little plug. Actually,
Nice.
It's a big plug. Some would say a super plug.
A super plug?
Yes.
Boy, I better get my super dog to hear it.
Yeah, I've seen Superman. It's really good. It's like I think all the James Gunn movies.
Mm-hmm.
It's imperfect, and it's not for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So if you like the Gunn, but if you like gun movies, this is a this is another one of those. I think it's less of a comedy than Guardians of the Galaxy.
Mm,
It's much more sincere, and I was surprised at how good some of the jokes were,
mm.
especially jokes that were playing out in serious moments, but did not take away from the seriousness of the moment and did not distract me or jar me the way that others did.
Yeah,
Um,
like, people in terrible situations still joke, and that
yeah,
helps us deal with the situation. And that's
yeah,
fine. What's bad is when you have like a joke that completely undercuts the tension, that makes it seem like, well, wait, is that really true? Because if so, why are we even worried? Or like, you know
yeah.
what I mean?
Exactly. And yeah, so it was really, really good. The action is great. The acting is great. The plot is um, very interesting. It feels totally like a full graphic novel where
Mm,
across it we are fighting, we are dealing with a kaiju, and then we're dealing with robots. And there is a whole like plot by Lex Luthor that kind of ties it all together, or does it? Or there's something else maybe. It's very much like a comic book brought to life, which is what James Gunn is really good at. It's
mm,
not as tight, I would say, as Guardians of the Galaxy, and
mhm,
there are sometimes the dialogue is very like clumsy in hiding exposition. Like there was a part that I immediately dubbed Lexposition.
mhm.
Um, that was like, damn, this is bad. So
Yeah,
imperfect movie, but I liked it.
that's awesome. I'm
Yeah.
excited to go watch it. I'm hopefully going to get to watch it with my mom, maybe. We'll see. But
Hmm.
otherwise, I can always watch it when it comes out on streaming services later.
Perfect.
We could do a review. Although I
Oh
guess you
yeah.
only like to review bad movies.
No, we can do a review of a good movie.
I was thinking I had one more idea for a TV show in this series that we could watch that was oldish
Don't tell
sci-fi
me. Don't tell me. Don't tell me.
that falls. I'm not going to tell you that falls in the similar range. I wanted to ask you: Are you down for one more of these, or do we conclude
Absolutely.
this run after this
No,
one?
no.
All right,
I'm having my fun. We can do more than three.
perfect. Well, with all of that said and
To
done,
be
then.
honest, I stopped at three with Head Up Your Ass
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't want to take too much time away from you to just watch bad movies. But I was having a blast.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was fun too, especially in the way that they were all bad in different ways. Like, I think Rebel Moon was the least fun for me because, like, it was
it
just, I don't know, I
it
felt
was
like it was
almost
bad
the
in an,
most it was the most competent, I think, of the three. Just
yeah,
like
it was
two
just like
as
bad in a less interesting way to me than Ong and then
go
Megalopolis.
back to the club.
Oh my god. It's just like, what the fuck? But yeah, before the ghost of Caesar Catalina teaches us why we're bad artists, that'll just about do it for our 43rd episode. If you want more, you can find us on youtube.com/atafriendlyorbit, as well as Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And if you happen to have any astral echoes you want to share with us, you can email us at afriendlyorbit@gmail.com. All one word.
All right, Ceres. I'll talk to you later. And to all of our fellow voyagers, we will catch you out there, boldly, where no one has gone before.